And in this case, he said, well, I'm going to California anyway. You can just ride with me.
Oh, sure. There she goes.
So, you know, before the family could figure this out, what was going on, I mean, he had actually sat down with the family, and he had told stories about how he managed an apartment house. He showed credit cards. You know, he looked like legit.
Yeah.
But some of the family members were like, wait a second, what's going on? So one got his license plate. That was the good thing that happened in this.
That was smart.
Got his license plate. So before anybody could really react and get things settled with her, he had already whisked her off, like he was going to California.
Oh my gosh.
Well, she ended up in Detroit with drugs forced into her, looking at semi-automatic weapons.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, you know, this was the era, I say, of illegal exploitation. A lot of the stuff happening today is legal. It's legal because there's internet pornography. It's legal because there's strip clubs. This kind of thing is, you know, nobody gets arrested for running an escort service.
I know, it's just disgusting.
It's, you know, so we've opened the door for exploitation of Minnesota kids like mad.
Yes,
and
they call it Minnesota Connection.
Yeah.
1 out of 10 girls that are arrested in Las Vegas, Nevada for prostitution are from Minnesota. Did you know that?
I knew that. Well, there are 2 things that happened a couple of years ago. One is way back about 8 years ago, I got an unsolicited letter from a city councilman in Ely, Nevada.
Oh,
and he said, this prostitution is illegal here. So that, or legal, it's legal.
In Nevada, but not Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's legal, so I could go down and get the records of everybody that's working in this. And I found that 31% are from Minnesota.
Yeah.
That was unsolicited. He just sent it to me. Okay. Now, we had police from Las Vegas here a couple years ago, and they announced that over half of the girls that they arrest on a Saturday night in Las Vegas are from Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah. It's called Minnesota Connection.
Yeah. We had a man from New York City who started something there called Paul and Lisa program. This was back in probably the early 80s. The first 16 girls that he rescued off the streets of Manhattan were all from Minnesota. The first 16 girls.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. And he went, and when we knew him in the early 90s, he was going around the country working with a lot of police forces and stuff.
Yeah.
He said every place he went, up in Canada, around the country, Tucson, different places, he found Minnesota girls working.
Jesus, Minnesota girls?
Yeah. I think,
listen up here.
I called, when Governor Carlson was the governor,
yeah.
I called his office and I talked to the secretary, and she had been working for the Vice Squad of St. Paul.
Right, I remember that, yeah, when I first moved here.
And she said, I said, my estimation is that we're losing at least 1,000 kids into this every year in Minnesota. Here's was her response. I think you're shooting too low.
That's right.
That was her response. So, you know, it's Minnesota's dirty little secret, as some people talk about.
Right.
And, you know, people have asked me, why does this happen? Why does this happen in Minnesota? Well, I say it happens because the kids are not prepared for what they're going to deal with.
No, they're not.
And this was the way it was
with
my daughter.
Or instructed or not even told anything about what can happen.
Right. I mean, if you don't know there's a problem.
Yeah, you don't know that you need to fix it. I mean, it's like they need to have this in schools.
Yeah, exactly.
Before, you know, when I was a young girl, if I'd have heard somebody like yourself or somebody come into my school and say, you know what, if one of the guys tells you, hey, go to bed with that guy over there with that diamond ring over there or whatever, or those alligator shoes, he'll give you $100 real quick. and you can just go with that and come back and give it to me, I'll understand. Well, anytime a guy tells you that he understands that you're going to go to bed for money, he just wants the money. He don't want you, and he don't want nothing. He loves the money. He don't love the girl. It's all BS, and the kids should know not to fall for that, because he sure as heck don't care about her.
Well,
he only cares about that money. And
the surprising thing I think that I've learned in all of this is that, first of all, people are vulnerable for many different reasons.
True.
Some have been molested. A number have been molested. No doubt about that. But you know, a number of kids. There are statistics that show that over half the kids in America don't even believe their parents love them.
Oh, I know that.
You know,
and I know they run away.
You know,
we have 13,000 runaways per year right in our local area.
Yeah.
13,000.
So, and you've got a lot of kids that have been abandoned.
Parents have left them.
Yeah, yeah. You've got a lot of kids who feel rejected. You've got these naive kids that think that nothing bad is going to happen, and neither do their parents.
I know, that's for sure. That's for sure. This is going to happen to my kid.
Yeah. So you've got all that for these guys who are preying on kids to work with.
Yes, they are.
And here's I think the real crux of the matter. If somebody comes to a Minnesota kid or up here in the upper Midwest and says nice things to them and makes them feel good.
Oh, yeah, that's what they want to hear.
And
they always say what they want to hear.
They're going to, you know, this one book is telling us that charm, there's two ways to use the word charm. There's the noun charm, but there's also the verb charm. Right. The verb is like, I'm going to charm you, I'm going to be nice to you, and I'm going to get you thinking that I'm on your side and you're going to be fine around me, and you can surely trust me with your life, you know. And then the way I put it is you run into, that's chapter 1, but then you run into chapter 2,
right,
which is the opposite, which is now things turn like it did for my daughter. It turns violent, and suddenly you're looking at a different person. They don't care what they say to you anymore, because now they've got you in their trap.
Hooked, yeah. And you think you love them.
Yeah.
And once they think that they know that they've got you to love them, that's when they really turn loose on you.
Yeah.
You know, start beating your head in and stuff.
So
that's what happens, though.
What I think we parents and grandparents don't realize is if we don't get something to happen at the top of the cliff, and the person goes over the cliff, not only are they going to get hurt, and this has been horrible for our daughter, to get hurt, and tremendous trauma and on all that. You know all about it. You've been through it, you know.
Your whole family.
But the whole family gets affected deeply because there's mental issues that start in. There's all kinds of, you know, brokenness within the family. Oh, sure. I mean, you were away from your own kids, right?
Oh, yes. I was, taken away from my kids, yeah.
And so somebody else has to fill in that gap. And how's that going to go?
And it's a creep that's going to tell you that he loves you and that you're the most important thing in his life and tell you everything you want to hear.
Yeah.
All the little things that little girls want to hear from the time we're little, the time we're grown women. They tell you all those good things. Oh, pimp's got the con of the world, honey. Yeah. He's got you wrapped around his finger real quick.
Well, and especially when he can point to, look at all these other people are instead of saying using you, it's like, hey, you've got the control over them because they're paying you the money.
That's what they tell them.
And then you can come back to me and I love you.
And so I'll help you spend the money.
Yeah.
I'll take all your money. I'll take all your money.
People don't understand that whole thing of that. Why would you give money to somebody and you're doing all the work? How can this be?
It doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah.
It's because they're so conned into believing that guy loves them. That's what the problem is.
Well, I think a lot of pimping guys are surprised themselves how that dynamic works, that suddenly this girl is looking to him as Prince Charming.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, but one psychologist told me, you know, it's like there's this one person on the planet
Right.
that I can depend on, that has me, you know. There's this two things that happen that I've learned. Okay, you've got love on the one side, and you've got an intimidation on the other side.
Well, it's fear, too. They
Yeah,
start putting fear in you.
That's what I mean.
And you're scared.
And when those two things, I love you, and watch out.
And watch out, because I'm going to break your skull open.
If those two things hit the brain at the same time, it creates something in the brain that says, I love you. You know, I'm with you. I'm going to stay with you. From the woman's point of view.
Oh, yeah.
It's a psychological
You're right.
phenomenon.
It's a psychological thing. You know, I read that somewhere too, that the brain, when the fear and the love thing, right, hits the same time, it causes us it causes that girl to stay with that offender, that abuser. Some reason the brain works like that. You're right. I just read that not long ago.
Yeah. Well, that's
really amazing, that fact.
The thing that is my message now is we've got to get to our kids early, because if we're down to the point we're talking about right now, you know, we've got little hope of any control.
No.
And I've worked with a lot of families.
Right.
And it's always heartbreak time.
Yes.
Because the family would like to just be able to pull this person right out of that situation. It doesn't happen.
No.
It doesn't happen. They have gotten under mind control.
Oh, they might. Yeah. They brainwash them.
Yeah.
They're brainwashed, completely brainwashed.
And so you're not dealing with the same person. Now you've got.
No.
Here's one of the things we've discovered with this, is it's a problem of identity. Now, when I use the word identity, people don't understand what I'm talking about. But here's what the cults do, and this happens within this framework too. The cults are working with people's identity. Okay, my identity maybe as a young person is I like horses. I'm going to be going to college and maybe become an engineer or a doctor or something. And you know, I've got a good relationship with my family. People care about me. You know, I'm going somewhere with my life. Maybe that's my identity.
Yeah.
Now, if a person gets involved with a cult or with a pimping person, that person, they're going to be drawn into something that says, well, I sell my body for money. You know, that's a huge shift in what's going on. I'm not talking about what people are saying to others. I'm talking about what they're saying to themselves. If somebody has gotten them to think of themselves like as that's who I am, that is a big shift in identity.
It sure is.
Let me just describe it with the cult thing. Here's how mind control works, as I understand it, very briefly. Okay, if you think of an ice cube, and you melt that ice cube, and now you've got a puddle here, and you pour a little Kool-Aid in there, and you stir up that puddle, and now you bring all that back and put it in your ice cube tray again, and you freeze it. Now, you started with an ice cube. What have you got now?
Ice cube.
You've got a popsicle.
Oh, you got a popsicle.
Something like that.
That's better.
You've got a popsicle.
Yeah, you got a popsicle, right.
Something happened in the meantime that changed the identity of that ice cube to a popsicle. And that's what mind control is all about, is you change that sense of identity, not from other people's point of view,
just
but
from
within yourself.
From within yourself.
And so if somebody comes home after they've been out there being used for a period of time, what's going to happen?